Hello and welcome to another episode of the Leadership Lens, where we speak with senior leaders on what's trending in the ecosystem, what are the hits and misses that you should not be unaware of. Today, we have with us a very special guest, an advisory board member of both AdTech and iMedia events, Samriddh Dasgupta. He is the CBO of Arata. Welcome, Samriddh. Great to have you on the Leadership Lens.
Hi, good morning.
Hi. Good morning. So, Samriddh, you've had I've been looking at your LinkedIn and we've been speaking. You've been really bullish on FMCG sector, I've seen. And, you worked with Bombay Shaving Company, you worked with Akiva, you worked with the Heads Up Hotels. Is there a special love for this particular sector that, I've heard that this is the next big thing that's happening.
I think it was always the big thing for me, right? 80s kids grew up very early stage. Consumerism was essentially mom and pop stores next to your home. Good things used to come when your cousins from the US or UK would come and visit you. Very sort of centered around Delhi mein kya milega, and our entire life was centered around this idea that there were few products which were meant for us, and then there were products that were not for us. It depends on the class system that you used to live in and the social milieu that you used to operate with, right? I was an immigrant Bengali who grew up in Delhi, and as classic as life would be, I grew up in this place called CR Park, which is the Bengali ghetto. So a lot of my early stage product consumption was also very Bengali products, which would be there from Kolkata down to Delhi, and you would have someone sort of setting context as to why someone in Delhi should have it. I think FMCG literally has been the backbone. So, of course, manufacturing, transport, and all of that, those are very large scale industries. But when you look at FMCG, what that industry has done for India is built aspiration, right? And I think aspiration is what drives consumption, and it drives how an economy starts to get stronger and gets more oriented towards scaling up. And I think the consumer India, and there are Indian consumers which are very, very diverse, but there is a consumer India. And I think that consumer India has become very matured over the last multiple decades. I, in fact, started my career very early in radio. Then I moved into advertising and I did filmmaking. Then I went into marketing. And throughout the first 10, 15 years of my life, when I was in the services industry, I was primarily working with, food and beverages, FMCG clients, packaged goods. Um, and one thing I realized is that the industry is agile and it's dynamic and it grows and it evolves and it's got so much joy. Uh, and you get to sort of learn about different kinds of people. You get to learn about what drives them, what motivates them. Households change every couple of years. Consumption changes every couple of kilometers. Language changes every city and potential pin codes. So when you work in FMCG and when you are thick in the middle of consumer goods and you look at how people consume things and people buy things and people choose things and people speak about the things that they buy, you get to understand the diversity of the human mind. And I think that's far more dynamic for me. I worked in consumer technology also, so I enjoy that thoroughly. I'm not thinking it's one against the other, but if there is one thing that has defined how India has been able to become a global market, it's through the consumption patterns that have evolved over a period of time, which were initiated through FMCG, went into fashion and travel, then went into consumer technology and lifestyle, right? So, in terms of hierarchy, you sort of start to get better products at home, then you get better products for yourself, and then you get a products for actualization and realization, right? So, I think that's really what happened with the Indian ecosystem and FMCG. I'm just deeply passionate about the idea of being able to tell stories about products and the meaning that they bring to people's lives. I like the idea of creating products. I like to get my hands dirty. So it's just one of those things. I won't use the dirty anymore. That used to be earlier, but now I just want to get my hands and sort of get more deeply involved in the process of product creation, and I enjoy that thoroughly. So whether it was with Bombay Shaving or Heads of Hotels, or Akiva or right now at Arata, I think we are so deeply entrenched in how we are being able to solve people's problems, how we are getting closer to consumers, understanding them, asking them questions, and building products and interventions that will solve very deeply meaningful problems for them, right? Because lifestyle problems are deeply meaningful problems. So if we are able to do that with the kind of rigor that I have experienced in these companies and the kind of energy that I've experienced in these companies, I think that's what keeps me going. And I'm hoping that this remains with me for the next many years. So I'm not done building. I love the idea of building. I love the experience of building. And hence, for me, I think FMCG just brings all of that together really well, right? So yeah, that's my thing about FMCG. I think it's a great India
Fantastic.
story
Do
and it's
you
a
have
great
a
personal
favorite?
story. Do I have a favorite
Have
of?
a favorite? I mean, it's like asking a parent who's their favorite child, but in building all these products across companies, do you have a favorite? Is there a memory? Is there something,
I think each of them, yeah.
closest?
I think each of them. It sounds a bit diplomatic, and I'm not known for diplomacy in the industry, so people will appreciate that. But when we were at Bombay Shaving, I think we had a sort of upward challenge when we were trying to get into women's grooming. Men's grooming was already there, but women's grooming was a difficult industry to get into. Very strong incumbents, and I think what we were able to create with Bombay, which is the women's grooming brand of Bombay Shaving, was deeply meaningful. It was positioned well. It had a certain amount of getting the first principles right, and I enjoyed that process a lot. Within Bombay Shaving, we were the first ones to be able to build out a premiumized range for men's shaving. Uh, Unfortunately, we were operating at a time when everyone wanted to look like Virat Kohli, right? So getting men to shave was a problem, but I think we were able to culturally get in and impact that change and that behavior. Um, so Bombay shaving for me was actually a very interesting shift in my career also because I had moved from Akiva Superfoods, which was health and nutrition and wellness, into a category which was not so deeply entrenched in how people were buying. It was still a very impulse-driven category, whereas wellness was more meaningful. So I had to figure out how this sort of impulse piece works. But I think the brand was built on the back of a very strong purpose, which remains with the brand. And I love the products. I still shave using their products, and I shave every day. So I think that goes on to say that there is a certain amount of joy that is there and a certain amount of respect that is there for the brand. Um, and I think what happened with Bombay Shaving was that I learned how to go deeper into problem statements because of the scale of the organization. Then came Heads of Tails, and Heads of Tails was this absolutely magical environment where you were making products for animals, and they could never turn around and say, "I like this, I don't like this." Right? So, I mean, with food, they can potentially, but for the rest of it, they really can't, right? So, you have to rely so much on consumer research. You have to go deep into the problem statement. We had stores, so I could get very close to the customers. I could spend a lot of time standing in the stores, speaking to people. Um, Thankfully, I had a lot of retail exposure in my past life, so I could bring that retail exposure here. Created a lot of meaningful journeys. So we had an app, we had the website, we had the stores. So a unified journey. That was the first time that I was creating an omni-channel journey. I think very few marketeers early stage have had the exposure of creating genuine uh, omni-channel journeys. I think a lot of people misconstrue like just one journey as an omni-channel, or maybe you have like two channels. But being able to really impact behavior, consumption patterns, look at large-scale data sets, see how people are buying for their cats and their dogs and different breeds and different ages and across different cities, and we were spread across 13 different cities. That was deeply meaningful. Plus, there was a services side of the business where there was grooming. So again, deep orientation in terms of how do you deal with people, and I think I enjoyed that a lot. Right, so I enjoyed the hospitality side to it. I enjoyed the technology side to it, and the product creation side to it. And I'm a cat parent and a dog parent. So for me, when you sort of get these two worlds in, I was having a ball of a time here. I was looking at products every day that were not even in the market, and they were also exciting. My cats are useless; they don't want anything. I've realized over a period of time, but my dogs got pampered a lot. So Heads Up for Tails, I think, got me to experience scale at a point where I think one, the Indian ecosystem had not seen that kind of scale in pet care. Second is very few marketers or business leaders had seen the kind of omni-channel journey that one could build. And third is just a deeply meaningful purpose-led brand, and very rare and very privileged to have had that exposure. And then from there, now at Arata, I'm realizing that whatever I have learned over the last 20 odd years, it's coming together because I've moved from a marketing role to now a business role. So now suddenly it's not about demanding a share of the budget. It's literally setting the budget and then looking at how we are becoming more profitable by the day. We are a profitable company and we would like to remain so. Um, we have started to grow really well. Our channels of exposure with quick commerce coming in has become absolutely brilliant. Our growth trajectory has been very, very solid and very robust. The team has expanded. So now suddenly I've gone back to what I used to do from 2004 to 2015, which was I was running a services agency. And now I've gone back to running a company and letting people who are better than me run departments. So running a company is not the same as running a department, and I'm privileged to have people who are so much better at me, even in marketing today. Honestly, the way my marketing team runs the marketing department, um, I think they just get the pulse of the audience a lot better than me, right? So because we are speaking to the early 20s, we are speaking to people who are entering the early consumption stage. So they're a couple of decades younger than me. So what happens is that I can only look at it from a brand lens or a profitability lens, but these are people who are so much closer to the consumer. So I think now what's happened as a business leader is I'm able to get the right set of talent in, let them do what they're really good at doing, fill the gaps, potentially get out of their way when they need me to get out of the way. And when they need me to lean in, I lean in. But I think what I'm enjoying most is the fact that we're creating some phenomenal products. They're all scientifically developed, lots of research, lots of dermat testing, lots of formulation testing. A lot of my time goes into spending with the lab technicians, with the formulators, and that I enjoy that. So you remember I told you that I love the idea of building products. So for me, it comes down to that. I'm able to get down to how this is really being made and how is this solving the problem. And once we get into that, then teams like the marketing team, the distribution team, the e-commerce, the quick commerce teams, they take over and they're so much better at it than I am, and they're so good at their job. So my life is a lot easier because we just have the right set of people doing what they're really good at doing. And as a business leader, all I need to do is just make sure that they're supported whenever they need to be.
I think that is fantastic. And I think a lot of people in our community need to hear this because we have CMOs who've done this for like you're saying, 20 years. And then now what next? Where is the excitement coming from? I think this is
Yeah.
a fantastic example of what can be done further.
Yeah. So I'm just on that point very quickly. Yeah. See, marketing was always meant to run the company's acquisition, the retention, the brand, the diversity of what you wanted to do, culture in the organization, right? So marketing has that role. I think over the years, what marketing became was unfortunately solving for a media. It stopped solving for what it was supposed to do, which is build a very strong brand and build a very strong company and build a very strong culture and impact culture and impact behavior change at scale. I think the last 7 years has been a very interesting stage even for marketers, and especially for people who went into CMO roles, by the way, because there was a massive struggle with CMO roles. One, they were not coming easy. Second, when they would come to you, you would potentially have to wear a technology role, you would have to wear a distribution role, you had a sales role, you had a service role, and you had a marketing role, right? And honestly speaking, when you have got 20 things to do, and you have, well, I mean, as many number of hours in the day that you can physically and mentally, emotionally put in, after that, you leave everything to God. I think that's really where the problems start to happen, where focus became diluted over a period of time. Whereas, one thing that I believe that a strong marketer should do is to build a very strong understanding of business. So if you understand the business P&L and if you understand the how that entire flywheel works, then you'll be able to get in and say, I'm really good at a few things beyond marketing, and let me consolidate it and see what that leads to. So one clear sort of advice, Kelo, yeah, whatever Kelo, is stop looking at yourself as a cost center and start looking at yourself as a profit center, because marketing is fundamentally a cost center. So get out of the cost center mode. I think it's very, very important, right? And I was very lucky because I did not work with cash rich organizations. And cash rich is essentially what NBFC has been, or banking has been, or even a large portion of D2C, which has had a certain amount of burn trajectory in their lives. They have been. Of course, FMCG is known for the kind of advertising and the media spends that they do. But I worked in frugal companies, which had capital responsibility, because there was always some or the other fund which needed to find meaningful exits or find meaningful interventions. And I think that pressure kept me looking at everything as a profitability index rather than a cost index. But धंधा समझना पड़ेगा यार. I mean, that's the core, right? If you don't understand business, you will not be able to understand how you want to move on from marketing role to something else. And at some stage, you'll have to open up this world for newer, better, more agile, younger, more dynamic, more creative marketers to come. And I honestly feel that I'm a terrible marketer now. I'm a much better business person. I think I understand the principles of marketing, but my team is so much better at marketing than I am. They know exactly what they have to do. They know how to create. They know how to distribute. They know how to write for it. They know how to impress the audience, involve the audience, engage with them, create wonderful pieces of content, which, they all sort of build out what the brand stands for. And they're able to do it. My role is to guide them, but my role is not to market with them. They know how to market it. So as a marketer, get out of your team's way. It's very important.
Get out of your own heads and get out of
Yeah.
these walled roles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pick up more stuff.
Pick up more stuff. Exactly. Yeah, that's actually the right way of looking at it.
No, completely get that. And Samriddh, I think this is a fantastic story that, fantastic inspiration for a lot of people. And you spoke about India being a global market, and we are, producing so much more quality products. For the first time, I told someone who's going to the US कि नहीं मेरे को कुछ नहीं चाहिए वहाँ से. I have everything here. Every quality of
Absolutely.
product is available.
Absolutely.
Even US products are available here at the same price that they are available in the US. So I think it was very empowering for me to make that statement, because for the last 40 years, I've never said this. Okay, I don't
Fair
want
point.
anything.
So if you look at it now, there used to be a situation where products would launch in the US first and then get launched here. We don't have that
Correct.
anymore. That syndrome is gone.
Exactly.
There is now, by the way, a much larger China-India launch as compared to even a Western launch. So the European countries, a lot of the European countries end up getting the product later. Just of course, because of how the European distribution chain right now is and how the supply lines are impacted. But having said that, India is no longer a good to have market, right? India is a must have market. So that must have market now comes on the back of, there is, the way I look at it, there is a certain amount of population which is an e-commerce ready population. It's potentially like 1 point something odd % of the overall consumption population. और उसी के पीछे पूरी दुनिया भागती रहती है, which is the D2C से लेके टेक्नोलॉजी से लेके सब कुछ. That churns out pretty fast. But what is absolutely amazing is if you start to look at the emerging markets premiumization. So the emerging markets premiumization right now is what's driving the actual average consumption ticket size to go up. And the basket compositions have changed completely. So earlier, what used to be, let's say, a very old school Vim bar has now been replaced by a liquid. A toothpaste, which used to be a generic toothpaste, has been replaced by something that is far more, let's say, rapid relief or pain relief, or one of those, a generic shampoo has been replaced by, let's say, an Arata super shampoo. Humble plug, yeah. But you know what I mean? Right? So there is this bucket change that's happened. That list change has happened purely on the back of how people have perceived old school brands. Now these legacy brands are also trying to reinvent themselves. Now, in the bid to reinvent themselves, what they have started to do, which is absolutely brilliant for the market, is throw a bunch of new products on the population and see what sticks. Good thing is that because these are all brands that have built a very strong reputable base, they're not doing the wrong things to the market. They're not dumping bad products on the market. They're really creating products for India. So I love the fact that there is a whole sort of focus area in terms of food becoming cleaner, right? Or personal care becoming more scientifically evolved for Indian skin and Indian hair, right? Which never used to happen. Which, when you look at it, never used to happen, right? Vehicles becoming more India first and India ready. In fact, Indian manufacturers now making vehicles for global platforms, right? Classic example is what's happening in biking, where there's so much consolidation between the Bajaj of the world and what KTM is doing, for example, in the market, or even a Royal Enfield or a Honda or a Harley. All these brands are now using Indian manufacturers and Indian consumer insights and Indian distribution systems to create products that are actually going global. And I think that's phenomenal when you look at the way our infrastructural development has happened, our consumer elevation has happened, premiumization has happened, basket selection has changed, household incomes have evolved. On top of that, there is this entire desire to become more agile as a market through distribution, through consumption values, which is I want a better brand, I want a brand that stands for something. There's a purpose, there is a meaning. I potentially want something that is good for the planet and good for me. So there's the emotional side to it, there's the distribution side to it, there's the economic side to it, there's the social side to it, and all of that comes together to create, I think, what I look at as an absolutely brilliant golden era for Indian manufacturing, Indian distribution, and Indian consumers.
Wonderful. I think completely true. It is a golden era, and I honestly feel that we're sitting on the cusp of something big. I mean, the exponential growth is still there. But tell me and give me your honest opinion here that when you and I were growing up, there were probably only so many shampoos that I could count
Correct.
that are available,
Correct.
or toothpaste or whatever you take. We are the Charmis generation, if we put it that way. So, but today, I mean, it's not 5 shampoos, it's not 500 shampoos, it's probably 5,000 shampoos available out
Absolutely.
there. And everyone, I mean, of course, there are D2C brands, and then there are existing brands who, like you said, who are, creating D2C products. Do you think the market is getting a little cluttered, or is
it's absolutely cluttered. It's cluttered. It's chaotic. But I mean, when you go back to your Charmis example, okay, there was Charmis, there was Ponds, and there were a few others, right? The fact is, the market was cluttered then also because the shelves were limited.
Yeah.
So, market is always cluttered. India has always been a cluttered market because of the diversity of India. India is not a homogeneous market; it's a very, very heterogeneous market. Okay, so there's no homogeneity here. So earlier, you would not see the influx of it because you didn't have a phone which would tell you how many products are there. But when you would walk into a store, even if it was a mop and pop store, you would see that there would be like a zillion chotu products which were always there, right? Then the supermarkets and the hypermarkets came. They started to get filled with 200 different brands of different kinds of sizes and shapes and colors and whatever price points. I think what you need to look at is within the price bracket that you want to operate, how many brands are there?
Mm.
So the lens has to change. The lens is not so much about are you being able to look at 5,000 shampoos at the same time. You shouldn't have to. Now, because your filter system has become better, and because your profile has become more pronounced, and because you know potentially what you want to look at, that 5,000 will come down to about 1,000. The 1,000 will potentially again come down to about 500, depends on availability. That 500 will again come down to a 250, 200 because of the price points that you want to operate at. That 200, 250 will come down to about a 25 depending on the reviews and the ratings that are there. That 25 will come down to potentially a 2 or 3 selection criteria depending on how you think about the brand, whether you like the packaging or not, whether it's available today, it's available tomorrow, right? So the way you've shopped has changed. So the shelves have changed. The clutter remains the same. The clutter was there earlier. You used to walk into the store, there was clutter. Now you have started to walk out, you're shopping on your phone, you're consuming things. I don't think the market will ever get to a point where it becomes over cluttered because of exactly what I said, right? There are people who are operating at different price points, they want different things. I just think that the preference criteria have become far more pronounced, which is very important. Earlier, when you would buy a cream, you would not buy a cream. You would essentially take whatever was given to you by, our parents, and we would just say, this is potentially the best product that we can get because they have chosen this. Then suddenly you would see something at your friend's place and you'd be like, this looks better. Then you would, meet people, and over a period you will discover new things. That discoverability has now gone down to you literally scrolling. So I don't think that the clutter troubles me. The clutter is actually very, very good because now it's being able to create products at different price points at different intersections. What troubles me though is that there are a lot of new D2C brands which are entering this ecosystem, and they're all trying to do so much, and they all have an uphill battle ahead of them. And I don't think there are too many people who are giving them the right sense of what are the first principles they need to do, right? So I'm just very scared that when I look at lots of young entrepreneurs, I'm scared and I'm excited both. I'm scared because I don't know if they're entering this with the right principles. I'm excited because if someone gives them the right principles, then they'll do really, really well, right? But not everyone overnight is going to be, the second largest skincare brand in the country or the third largest hair care brand in the country. Of course, the large ones are still the Unilevers and the Gillettes and the P&Gs of the world, so that's fine. But the second largest, third largest, wo darja paane ke liye na, the amount of work that the D2C brands have to do and the kind of maturity that they need, I'm just a bit scared that I'm not so sure that the ecosystem has built that playbook as yet. So we will see a lot of new brands come in. We'll also see a lot of new brands dying quickly. I consider this to be about a 3.5, 4 year itch. If you can survive for 3.5, 4 years, and if you don't burn through too much and you get your first principles right, more often than not, you will survive. It's the graveyard of brands that is there between the 0 to 3 year journey. And it's a very large graveyard journey. And that's what troubles me. So it's not the number of brands, it's the way a lot of the brands are coming in and operating. And I'm just very scared that if that is not stopped, then that graveyard just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And after a while, you just have to keep building vertically. You can't keep, how much more are you going to dig down yet? So मुझे बस जिगर डर है. Baki, I think brands are good. I think the number of brands that we have, they're fine. Different kinds of consumers, we should be okay. As a country and as an economy, we should be still okay. We won't have the dying embers with us.
So if you're saying that yes, this is a 0 to 3 time period, and we spoke about, so FMCG is intensive in terms of the money it requires to start up a D2C. It's not like you start an app or a service or something.
Actually, it takes less money, huh? It's not about the money anymore. If you have a good idea, because manufacturing is democratized, packaging is easier. What you need is a very clear differentiator. That's number one. You need a fantastic idea to go to market. The money part comes in much later in the life cycle, where you need large corpus of money to get out there and create meaningful, marketing campaigns or distribution funnels and everything. But if you have a great product, and if you know that you're getting the first principles of your product in place, which is you have a high gross margin, you're going to have stickiness from the product, which solves the problem. You'll be able to distribute that product across different channels. So it's not created for a particular channel, it's created for multi-channels. You are able to command some degree of visual differentiation in the market, which is very important. That is super critical because visual differentiation is what drives, recall and awareness. And you have a story to tell. As long as you can do that. See, none of these are money factors. These are all idea factors and these are all execution factors. I think there is a very strong chance for a brand to win. Very, very, or at least a brand to play. Win maybe a little later, but a brand to play. Problem happens when someone says, and this is actually more of a technology problem than even a D2C problem. When someone says, I want to be the next Uber, or I want to be the Uber of something, right? And I think that's where the problem starts. So when people say, I want to be the Mama Earth of this, I think that's where the problem lies. Because you're looking at a playbook which was developed for 6 years before this. They have gone through their challenges. They've gone through their tribulations. They have been able to navigate things that you have not even seen or heard of. And now suddenly you want to be the Mama Earth of something. Bro, that's just absolutely the worst parameter to take, right? For your own success. You have to figure out how many people's problems are you solving? And are you solving it really well? Are you being able to do it with the right product? Do you have the right distribution model for yourself? Do you have the right story to tell? Do you have a face to put out there as the brand representative? And more often than not, it should be the founder's face. Are you comfortable to take as many hits as you can take? Because the consumers are going to turn around and say whether they like your product or they don't like your product. What kind of agility you have to respond to that? Are you really a brand that wants to learn from India, from consumers? Or do you just want to take something and give it to the Indian consumer because you think there is endless depth? They're two very different principles. That endless depth is going to stop after a while. It becomes shallow. But if you keep learning from your consumers, if you keep building differentiated products and services, then I think you're going to be absolutely rock solid.
Samriddh, if you have to pick top five things that you think Arata or Bombay Shaving or Heads Up for Tails did or are doing right, which you think need attention. I mean, these are the things
Yeah,
that other D2C, aspirational D2C founder needs to absolutely know this rock solid rock belt. What is it? What are five
I
things
think,
that you're doing right?
man, very simple, right? So first is get your product right. There is absolutely no negotiating it. And by product right, I mean invest time, invest effort in the consumer research part. Don't operate with your friends and family ecosystem. I see too many founders doing it. I have this firm belief that we have a South Delhi, South Bombay, Kormangla product line. Dude, that product line is going to fail. Okay, more often than not, that product line is going to fail. Uh, please travel. Please meet people. I spent the first 12, 13 years of my life traveling the length and breadth of this country. Uh, I was in my early 30s. I had the privilege of energy, physical, mental, emotional energy. I went out there, I met people, I was working with brands, I was standing in stores. And believe me, I learned so much through that experience. And that's how you get products, right? Because when you sit with people, you speak to them, you actually invest your emotional energy in terms of understanding their need gaps. That's when you get your product right. That's when you get your service right. So, first is get that right. And I think each of the examples that you took, whether it was Bombay Shaving or Heads Up or Arata, I think that has remained a strong investment even before I had joined. So it's not me joining and that came in. The culture of the organization was such that there was always that deeply rooted, let's understand India. But let's not just build it for the niches, let's build it for the masstige. And masstige is important, which comes to the second point, which is get your damn positioning right. Mass products in India, unfortunately, don't command a premium. As a D2C brand, you need to command a premium because you are up against very, very strong legacy players with very deep pockets. Learn how to command a premium. Most D2C brands start up and they say 70% discount. Please don't do that to yourself. It's a deathbed. You don't understand it right now because you're thinking, okay, I've got my month sales in. But when you start looking at your CM1, then your CM2, and then your EBITDA and your PAT, and you realize that, dude, I have just lost way more money than I can imagine, right? So just make sure that you're getting your principles of product positioning right. Product positioning is the problem it solves, for who it is, and the pricing and where it is distributed. I think the distribution part is fine. I'll come to that later. But the pricing piece is super critical. Please don't be a deep discount brand. That's number one. Price it right. If you think that you can't command a price premium, then you price it in a way which is still comfortable for you. But you have to do that research a little bit. I think a lot of people end up pricing it wrong to begin with. So, so sorry. So either they'll underprice it, and they'll think that if I can cut down my pricing, then I'll be able to sell more because my immediate competition is at 10 rupees, and if I'm at 8 rupees, then I'll be able to sell more. The problem is they realize that after a while, that 8 rupees also is not good enough because they have not been able to build any kind of brand aspiration. So at 8 also they're not selling, then they will start reducing further and further and further, and then before you know it, it's a race to the bottom. So get your positioning right. Third piece, which is super important, is get your bloody technology right. Yeah, more often than not, what happens is you have brands that start off, they have not cleaned up their data, they have not arranged their data, they don't know what to look at, they have not built out the right MISs, they haven't built out the right dashboards, they have got potentially the worst sort of analytics frameworks in this world, which is all stock and does not solve the problem that they need to solve. On top of that, there is no marketing automation, there is no retention funnel being created, there is no what should I say, social channel being created which has listening and then insights and DMs and all of that. I mean, you can't be operating in a digital first ecosystem, in a digital first consumer place through digital commerce without getting your technology stack in order. You cannot. Super critical, right? So while you're getting your product positioning right, your pricing right, please get your technology right. Third is please get your talent in order. And I keep saying this over and over again that I would much rather work with 4 people who are really talented than 40 people who are going to sap my energy. And I'm assuming this conversation is more for early stage founders. So hence that early stage founder piece becomes important here. That get your first 10 hires right. Take your time. Yeah. Spend time with them. Pull in experts if you don't know how to hire. Like pull people in who are seniors in this ecosystem, who have spent some time in this ecosystem and say, hey, can you do an interview for me? Ask them, reach out to them. This ecosystem is actually super open. People are ready to help. I remember I was doing a very sort of evolved tech hiring in one of the companies, and I said, okay, my tech knowledge it's sufficient. I'm conversant, but I'm not deep. So I actually reached out to someone who was working in Sapient. I said, dude, can you just do this interview for me? Just be a fly on the wall. Help me with this interview. So I think it's super important for founders to leverage this ecosystem and build a talent pool that will be deeply nurturing for them, will empower them, right? Because as a founder, you need to do 20 other things. You cannot be solving every functional reporting to you. So get your organizational structures in place through the right kind of talent. A lot of founders just sit and try to do everything in the day, and then they end up doing a shoddy job of everything that they do. So please don't do that. Final piece is don't be in a rush to raise capital. Please don't be in a rush to raise capital. Capital comes at a cost. Early stage dilution is deeply problematic, according to me. You can get some seed, friends and family, sure. Respect that. Respect that capital that's coming in. It doesn't come easy. If you're very privileged, then of course that money is much easier to you. But then there are a lot of people who are deeply ambitious who don't have that kind of privilege. So don't build a narrative of fundraising as your metric of success. It's not, right? I think so. Be frugal with capital. Be very conservative with the way you raise capital or you allocate capital. Be very generous with ESOPs. I genuinely feel that that's a very, very important way and a deeply meaningful way to build this ecosystem. Be very frugal with the way you spend. Be very cautious with the way you raise, and be very generous with the way you allocate ESOPs. And I think that goes a very long way in building culture in an organization. You're trying to become a wealth creator for multiple people, right? So create that opportunity, create that pool, create that culture, create that symbiosis between you and people who are coming together very early stage, who are going to believe in you, trust in you, and who are going to take a punt for you. And I had the privilege of working in very early stage companies. And one of the first principles was always that let's make our team, comfortable for life. If you can do that, then believe me, there's so much talent that you can gather, right? So pay people well, of course, allocate ESOPs, get out of the way. Goes back to my first one, get out of the way when you do things. Leverage your network to hire the right set of people. Don't be in a rush to raise capital. Make sure that you are building a profitable, unit economics driven brand and marketing funnel. Get your positioning right, and all of that flows down from the core of your business, which is the consumer insight. And through that consumer insight, you're able to create the most meaningful product or service that you want to take to India. I think that's really where my funnel is, and what people should focus on.
I think that is the blueprint for a successful D2C business.
I think any business, dude. Any business.
Any business, actually. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And you mentioned that point about customer understanding and building that back into the product. Now, can you give me an example, or can you help me understand how this works? How this customer listening or social listening, and how do you build it back into the product? I mean, is it as simple as me saying that, Samriddh, this shampoo is making my hair dry, so you go and add more moisturizer in it? Is that how it works?
No, it's not as easy as that. I wish it was.
I believe it's not
and
that
no,
easy.
we don't add moisturizers to the shampoo. But in principle, yeah, what you just said is exactly what it is, right? India works, and we have spoken about this. It's a diversity of the population, and I've had the luxury of living in Europe and in Southeast Asia. They're very heterogeneous organizations, very heterogeneous countries, right? You have a unified sense of water, climate, more often than not, food habits, and the way people speak and the way people buy. India is completely different. So it's scattered. We are a chaos-driven consumption economy, and I think it comes down to that, right? So one is asking people what do they need, because India has gone through this point where we were very problem aware, but we were never solution aware. Now, when you look at it, there's a lot more solution awareness. Now, when you have cracked heels, you know that there is a cracked heel. For example, right? If you have a hair problem, you know that I can potentially get either a salon treatment done, which is available, or I can use a product that is good for me. Could potentially use a serum or a shampoo or a conditioner, whatever it is. For my protein intake, I have protein shakes and I've got bars and so on and so forth. So now the problem awareness is high and the solution awareness is high. So if you ask people what do they need, they will potentially now give you the next evolution. They won't say something as fundamental and as boring and as basic as give me a protein source. They'll say, protein sources so mere paas bahut hai. What can you do that is easier on my gut, for example, or that tastes like this, or that dissolves better, or it's not a powder form and I can just carry it with me, but I don't like bars, or I'm severely diabetic and I want something that's gluten free. Can you give me something which is as specific as that? And I think that's really where, even with hair, for example, a few weeks back, I had put a post asking people if they wanted to experience one of the samples of a new product. I got hundreds of responses. Finally, I had to close that form down because my team was like, "Dude, we just need like 200. We don't need more than that." Like, sure. So we had about 600-700 responses on that form, which was deeply encouraging. And so we sent out samples to about 200 odd people. We are waiting for the results to come in, but the earlier results have started to come in. And what this has informed us is that we need to make two shifts to our product. Very basic shifts, but two shifts. And I think, and we have already made that. We already finalized it. We're waiting for the next sample size to come in and give us that input, and hopefully we are good. And we're going to take this product to market on the 14th or 15th of this month. So we've already made the changes that we had to do based on the early 120 odd feedback units that we got. And I think that's really where the consumer insight piece comes in, that D2C brands have the ability to take that insight and turn that into an action. Whereas a very large scale legacy brand will take a lot of time to arrive at the next action, right? So I think that agility is what enables us to become challengers in terms of this ecosystem, right? So that's one. Second is, please do a bunch of social listening. And I don't mean deploy tools on top of it because it's very expensive. I never recommend a lot of tools. For very early stage D2C brands, you have core team members, you have people who are living and breathing that social fabric every day. Look at your DMs, look at the comments, look at what people are writing for. YouTube is a brilliant space where you can get in and see what kind of different comments people have left under creators who you want to potentially collaborate with or work with, who are KOLs in the space. Now, what happens with that kind of consumer insight derivation is that you're always able to look at what people want from products that are already there. Amazon reviews, again, classic example of you don't need to go very far out. You get into that ASIN, you get into the reviews and ratings, go through what people have written, ignore all the ones, or ignore all the 5 stars and 4 stars because you don't know how they came about. Go through the 1 star and the 2 stars. Then you know what problem you want to solve for. Triangulate it, find a product that, or find an inspiration that works for you. So I think insights is democratized right now. If anyone comes to me and says that, hey, I'm going to do a consumer research for you, I get a little jittery because I'm like, dude, my consumer research is literally happening real time for me in terms of what people are searching for through Google keywords, in terms of how people are buying through Amazon Pie, through Helium, through what Blinkit gives us as a dashboard, or Gobble or other quick commerce dashboards. Alongside that, you're telling me that you'll be able to reach potentially 1,000 people, whereas we do one post and we get 600 responses. So I'm kind of okay with that, right? I think it comes down to that people are willing to speak. You have to listen, but don't just listen idly, right? Listen actively, and get whatever insights you can get from there, and then be super agile in terms of changing that into an actionable. So consumer research is useless if it's not met with action. Um, when I was in the services industry, there used to be this thing about research is essentially you're researching for what you have already thought of. So you're just validating it. I think that validation part is gone now. Now you're really researching. Now you're really going deep into it. You're looking for gaps. You're not arriving at the problem statement and then validating it through a bunch of consumer studies. You're trying to arrive at the problem statement by looking at what the consumers are saying. And I think that's really where the D2C environment really comes into play. For me, that's the way I look at research.
Fantastic. I think what I hear is that when you say D2C, it's not just the brand speaking to the consumer, it's a consumer speaking back or communicating back. And it's very important for this two-way
Yeah,
communication to happen. And it's really simple. It's not
Shani, go into a
over
Reddit
complicated.
thread. There are, just go into Reddit and spend time there. Okay. Um, I spend a lot of time on Reddit, and also LinkedIn, both. And what I've realized is that they're gold mine of information, right? So if you want to build the next best B2B SaaS company, spend an inordinate amount of time on looking at conversations that are happening in comments on LinkedIn. If you want to build the next best consumer tech company, go and look at the kind of reviews and statements that people are leaving, both on the App Store as well as on Reddit. If you want to build the next best consumer products company, go through every second creators or let's say KOLs, and dermats and hair experts and experts videos on YouTube and go through their comments. And then go onto Amazon and look at the comments that are left there, and go on to Nike and look at the comments that are left there. People are already saying what they have to say. You just need to take it and synthesize it. The problem is laziness hits us and we outsource this to an agency. And then you get absolute nothing. And please call up people and speak to them. Goes back to my first point of the first principles of building a company. Please call up people, meet people, speak to them. I still every week call up and speak to our customers. Right? बहुत गालियां खाते हैं, but बहुत कुछ अच्छा मिलता है उसमें से. Right? So we get logged because of logistic challenges. Dude, there's nothing I can do about logistic challenges. But in the middle of them screaming at me saying, "Oh, your product reached late, or something happened, or whatever it is, delivery boy was late," and I can't control that. I'm so sorry. As much as I would love to control it, I can't control it. Then she'll say, "Yeah, but that's all okay because when we opened the package, it was really beautiful, and the packaging was really beautiful, and right now we have also bought the second bottle." Hello, okay, I'm very happy. Thank you. I mean, that's great. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, right? So I think it comes down to that. You have to be patient. You have to be able to take the bouquet with the brickbats, and just learn from what people are saying already. It's all there.
Fantastic. I think this has been, a very, very, very interesting conversation, very insightful. I think I found it superbly helpful. I'm almost tempted to start my own FMCG D2C brand now. But thank you
No,
so much.
please, you be the
Don't do that.
enabler. No, be the enabler. Don't do that. Be the enabler.
Okay.
You are helping a lot of people. You guys are supporting a lot of people, and I really love what AdTech and iMedia does. So I think at the end of the day, we need supporters of the ecosystem, and we need people who are there to enable action, and enable insights being turned into action. So you guys are really good at doing that. So more power to you. If you ever do want to start a brand, then be in a position where you are building from India for the world. I think that's really what
That is
ambition should be.
absolutely. Thank you so much for this conversation, Samriddh.
Not at all.
I'll stay in touch. I mean, I really don't want this to end, but that's all the time that we have today.
That's
So
okay.
we'll continue this another day, another platform.
See
Thank
you.
you.
Take care. Bye.